Welcome to the Optional Boss Podcast. This is episode 43, where we are going to essentially build a second NES console. And we've got a few rules, but before that, just as a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter or Instagram at Optional Boss PC, and we are now on YouTube. Tyler, what is going on?
That's right. Get the plugs right out of the way at the start. Not a whole lot.
Exactly.
I don't have time. And I hate that I don't have time for video games, especially because I keep picking long video games that require a great time investment. But my grass, it gets so long.
I mean, you say that, but given where I am right now, which we'll get into in a minute, yeah, long games are long.
Long games are long. And I mean, granted, this isn't a small amount of hours, but I crushed through what I felt was enough of Elden Ring in 40 hours. So, I am making the most of the time that I get. That is for sure. And actually, in the little bit of time that I have got, I polished off Gravity Circuit, that nice little Mega Man style indie game. And yeah, for anyone curious, it's great. It's just a wonderful, I'm not going to say this is like a Hollow Knight or something like that. But if you like Mega Man games, this one will stick with you. I thought it was, I don't know, maybe I can't really say easy because, these are my cup of tea. But, I didn't struggle with it by any means. It had a lot of fun ideas. It's very fast paced. You've got grappling hooks. You can unlock your double jumps. It's definitely one that when you get the mobility down, it feels good. Almost as good as The Messenger. So,
Oh, The Messenger is great.
Too. And it still, very much falls in line with the classic Mega Man trappings. I mean, it opens up. You pick between your 8 bosses and go on, so on and so forth. It is very much Mega Man coded in its DNA, but it does a lot to do its own thing as well. And
let's be fair, if Capcom's not going to come out with another Mega Man, somebody has to.
I will take anything that wants to try to do the formula really well. Inti Creates has been really good for following that formula because they did actually make a bunch of Mega Man games, but they haven't been putting out as much lately, or at least not as much that I have known to think of or play. So yeah, Gravity Circuit, great time. Still not my primary thing though. I am working away at that Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. So many words. But I haven't made too much progress on it, so I won't speak to it other than what I've previously said before is...
Are you enjoying
it? That's what I was just going to say. It's good. I like it. I like it a lot. It has definitely polished up some of the previous experience, and the new stuff has been interesting so far. Plus, I know I am really enjoying because the weird thing about SMT5 in particular is... a lot of RPGs, turn-based RPGs, I actually enjoy to play more in handheld. This is one that feels very proper to play like a console game. It takes me back to PS2 era consoles where you would not me, clearly, with the previous shit I've said, but the days where you'd sit down and you would just play Final Fantasy X for 8 hours. That kind of RPG.
No, very, very much.
Yeah. So, and it's a certain flavor of it, and it's been really good. So, but that's been.
I mean, you could have said 7 or 8 with Final Fantasy there too.
I think the reason why I specifically chose 10 is because, I want to say PS2 was the last generation of great console RPGs, right? I'm not going to say there hasn't been great ones since, but just that feels retro, but still kind of modern to me anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, expansive.
That's fair.
Is really what I'm going for. Not to say things like Final Fantasy 7 and 9 aren't, but I digress. How about yourself? What have you been up to?
So, I think a couple episodes back you were talking about playing Elden Ring, or you just started, and I think it was shortly after that I ended up starting because the DLC was coming out. DLC's obviously been out. So I've been playing that, beat it, pulled up a guide afterwards, and kind of just realized that I pretty much got all the bosses. It's alright, I was thorough enough. The final boss, big thing about the DLC is everyone complained that it's very difficult, and I think I'm still firm on the fact that Elden Ring, because it was so approachable for new players, they were not expecting the ass-handedness of the DLC.
I still think it's the easiest of the From Softs. I know that might make me sound like a holier-than-thou type, but I thought it was pretty easy.
No, because like it was certainly easy because of all the abilities that you are given.
So many
and
tools.
Also you can out-level everything, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's very easy to if you're going around exploring.
Well, not only that, compared
that's not a bad thing.
Like, you could always grind in Souls games, right? But I think this kind of secret sauce about Elden Ring grinding versus standard Souls. Elden Ring grinds are boring. You are running that same pathway and then just running back, hitting your bonfire, doing it again, do it again. At least this, you can be like, well, I'll just fuck off to an entirely different area of the game. Like, at least it's new while I do it.
Yeah.
So.
No, very, very much. DLC was great. The last boss definitely humbled me. I don't know how many attempts he gave me. I'm not gonna spell out spoilers or anything, so everyone's safe. If you have, I think it's just easier to doing it.
If you just kind of say your struggle in a time frame as opposed to a try frame, it will still get the point across of how much of a hurdle this was.
Looking at it in a time frame, yeah, it took me a few days. That's for sure. Nothing else did.
That's quite the struggle for a boss, but
I don't think in the base game.
No, I get walled for a little bit by some things in the base game. There's not been anything that was just like, well, this is insurmountable.
Well, it's funny because like after I was done with the DLC, I'm like, okay, well, I might as well finish up this run. So I left off at the going for the fire giant, and I just steamrolled everything. Just bouncy, 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 slash, slash, slash. Done.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, all this stuff that like gave me an actual struggle in the base game before on my initial playthrough. I'm just treating it like it's my bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
so
kind of the vibe I get from a secondary.
After that, I was kind of like, oh, very much. Like you know a lot of the stuff, but I was also like severely over leveled.
Yeah.
So yeah, I put that to rest, and I was kind of tempted to put in a indie game. I got my physical for Dave the Diver, but something else that came just before I was done the DLC was my physical of Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, that's
so speaking of long games, there was Elden Ring. Yes. So yeah, had the Baldur's Gate. Had Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree, and now there's Baldur's Gate 3. I think I've sunk about maybe 6-7 hours in, and already had quite a few fun mishaps in battle. It's great. It's really good. It's about what I expected, just a little more refined than what I experienced in Divinity Original Sin, but it is very good.
Wild how many people who I talk to who have played that game are like talking about their second or third playthroughs of it when they talk about it. Like, seems to be there's a reason why it got the clout that it did.
Oh yeah, like you could finish up the game and go right back into it. For some people, I don't think I'd ever be able to do that, because I think I'd want to go check out other things. Like I have Dave the Diver, but I also find that I can't really do a side game right now because this game is just so massive, and there's for someone with ADHD like me, I'm all over the place. I'm all over the place as is. I'm not bouncing from game to game because I'm bouncing on situation to situation.
Well, I just feel like sometimes those games just require your full and absolute attention as well, right? I mean, they're throwing a lot at you at all times.
Yes, and there's so much side content, and just like the side content is more like world building content, not so much bullshit kind of side content, if you know what I mean.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, you can also be a wheel of cheese. So, there's a world of possibility in Baldur's Gate 3.
I don't know anything about that, but I'm not going to say it's not possible.
I think I have seen things around that are like Wheel of Cheese playthroughs and stuff like that. I don't know if it's a mod or what, but
that would be a fantastic mod. I have cheese.
It's like
it would suck to be burned.
Oh, what is it? You play as Tofu in Resident Evil 1 if you beat it a certain way, or there was a cheat code or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, the days of cheat codes, my goodness.
No, I think it was like after so many different playthroughs, you could play as Tofu.
Just Tofu with a knife and a hat.
Or was that just like what was that actually in the game, or was that like an
April Fool's
gaming
thing?
magazine back in the day? April Fool's, yeah.
I don't know.
I know I've seen it.
There's also, I believe,
I just don't.
What is it? I think in one of the Tekken games, you can just play as just like a fish. I don't know how we spun off into this, but Wheel of Cheese. That's right.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3. Very good. I think you would really love it, but also be scared of it.
Just because the amount of stuff and like how long.
Well, you don't particularly like long games.
Depends, but usually
there's a lot of content here.
Yeah,
but it is very well done.
I can enjoy them. There's too many of them. Although,
well, I mean, I'm very interested to see where it goes, because just to dive very beginning, you're in a ship, like in a pod from mind flayers, and they awaken each one of you, the characters who you can choose, and they put like a parasite into your eye, and it like starts controlling you throughout the game.
Off to a great start.
I had this main quest I was on, but now this parasite's in my head, and apparently it's going to change me into a mind flayer, and I won't have any control over myself.
Huh. That sounds important.
Yeah, but if you find other parasites, you can consume them, and it wiggles its way into your brain, gives you more powers. But then you start going all deformed and whatnot.
Trippy. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the amount of outcomes and different paths you can take in that game are just absurd.
Absolutely. Like, it could just be like how you approach a situation. Do you go up the path or down the path? I invaded a goblin camp and I went into the rafters. They spotted me, they climbed up, and they shoved my guy right into a pit.
Oh.
Like, literally, they had the ability to shove my character. And he fell off the rafters. And instead of landing on the ground below or anything, he fell right into a bottomless pit.
Oh. Well, that sounds terrible.
I just couldn't help but laugh. Like, alright, well, I'm dead.
Death by push.
Death by prod.
Yeah.
Back to the Worms games.
There was nothing more satisfying than defeating your opponent with a prod. Yeah, I was actually going to say, all these long games that we keep playing, but our topic today is going to consist of what nowadays would be significantly
long games
smaller.
Because you can't beat it.
Well, okay, yeah, this might be back on the.
They're small games, but you can't beat.
Yeah, so what do you say we cue up some music and dive right into building ourselves our own perfect NES Mini?
I think that is a fantastic idea. We'll be right back. So, I mean, obviously there is already a NES Mini console, and it did relatively well, I think. Like, scalpers are out there now doing scalper prices.
I don't think
people
these are
tried
cheap.
making imitation ones.
Yeah.
No.
This was
much cheaper originally.
This was fad worthy, and it's not too often that I don't know, things are trending all the time, I suppose. I wouldn't know. But this kind of started a phenomena, right? Like, this was the original people cared about these small collections of retro games again. And you know what? There is something...
Well, we saw the Super Nintendo Mini. Yep. We saw the Sega Genesis have a few iterations, not by Sega and some by Sega.
Well, primarily after
we had the PlayStation Classic, which, yeah.
Yeah.
But like, there's been so many mini consoles. We've done mini console topics before, and this isn't to be confused with something like that. Like, we aren't talking about the original NES Mini. We are talking about we're kind of doing a voting to try and build our own. Like, if there's a second iteration. So a few rules that we went by is it can't be on the first Mini, which is unfortunate for a couple of them. But this also doesn't replace the NES Mini.
No, this is a new revised version. This is
like NES version 2, the top loader.
Yeah.
Lookalike.
Yeah, you get a little top loader. You get the little dog bone controllers. You get fucking 2 of them this time because what a mistake. They have slightly longer cords.
You got 2
in the NES one.
You got 2.
Did you? I could have sworn you got 1.
Yes, just it was 2-foot cords.
Did you get 2?
If you got 1, then you bought yours used, and you got jail.
No, mine's got this nice shiny box. Maybe it did come with 2. I don't know. Admittedly, I didn't really use the NES Mini all that much compared to the SNES Mini. But that said, I still like it. I think it's very neat. And it has a really well-crafted list of games. Like, when I look at what they picked for it, this is kind of quintessential Nintendo, which I think is really cool. But I also...
Oh, yeah, there's some solid games on there that, like, scream Nintendo. Some that I'm a little surprised they actually got licensing for, given past partnership debacles.
It's like what, like Final Fantasy?
Yeah. Mind you, granted, their whole breakup was a long time ago. They've clearly made friends since. So, I mean, yeah.
I like how their rules, however, didn't apply to the Game Boy Advance. That was like, we won't make you any of our Final Fantasy games anymore. Except on your Game Boys. We'll do that.
Yeah.
But I digress.
So, this is going to be a kind of weird episode. How many are we looking to collaborate together? Are we looking at 20?
So, I think we should try to shoot for, that 30 mark that they have with this one.
30 mark?
But also, kind of like, I want to put that fun little spin that they started with the SNES Mini, and even the Sega Genesis did this, where they come out with a previously unreleased bonus game, per se. Like how the SNES Mini had Star Fox 2. Yeah. And I want to say the Sega Genesis Mini had... I think it was like Monster World 4 or something, and it was like a fully translated version just for that. An interesting addition like that, be it just something we could have never gotten before somehow. By the end of this, it'll be like 31 games definitively once we decide what makes the perfect box. But honestly,
with
folks,
a weird, like, secret unlockable one.
This is just a bunch of games we're gonna think are neat. But with purpose, this isn't going to be just nothing but Mega Man, because it would be, if it was my decision, it would have all 6, and your bonus game would be that really weird version of, have you ever heard of a game called Fortune Street?
No.
It's like, kind of like Monopoly,
maybe.
But not. There was a weird Dragon Quest one, but I digress. There was like a Mega Man version of that for NES, but that's not what we're doing.
Okay.
This isn't the Mega Man box.
No.
But yeah, coming up with like picks
that we have both made. Yeah, we've both made our own kind of lists, and we're going to try and work through in some kind of fashion on games that it should be on, or should be on it, till we get about 30.
Gets you a nice, well-rounded
obviously
package.
Like this is really just for shits and giggles. It really is. This is going to come down to, like, here's a bunch of things that we actually enjoy about the NES. And granted, some of them I haven't played that are on my list. And Tyler, I'm sure you're the same way. You have some games on your list that you know are notable, but you haven't actually played yourself or have very limited time in.
Yeah.
Nothing says that we had to play the game to actually acknowledge its greatness.
No, or just quirkiness.
All right, hopefully there's not too much of a blip. My recording program just crashed, and we are kind of splicing this together. So yeah, we're just going to piece this together with our list.
Funny that happened to you before me.
Right? Because I'm the one with the actual, like, PC. You are working on a potato.
A potato that's in a lot of pain.
Yes. So,
but
how do we want to go about this? Because obviously, like, we each have a list of over 20 games, and we are looking for 30. Some of them are going to kind of mush together. So, yeah.
I mean, these aren't deep dives of these individual games.
Oh, God,
basically,
no.
my thoughts are, throw a game out into the ether, explain, what it is, and why it would be a great fit for why it should be auditioning for this curated console lineup. And part of how I'm planning on building is some experiences that parallel the original NES Mini, or some ones that were very much overlooked from the NES
Right.
Mini. And so, but it's mostly just a smorgasbord of random games. So
just of that
should
good
go
shit.
first?
So I'll go first with a very obvious one. If you've listened to the show before, you know my admiration for Star Tropics 2. And yeah, sure, we got Star Tropics 1 on the original. Star Tropics 2 is quite a bit different in playstyle. So I think it is good enough to actually be on. Not a lot of people have actually experienced number 2. Barely a lot of people have experienced number 1 until it started getting put on the virtual console and stuff. So Star Tropics 2, definitely, it's a free roaming Star Tropics 1. And if you've played Star Tropics 1, you know what I mean then. Where you're stuck to that grid-based movement.
I think
it's just a lot better in the sense of, like, playability.
So, we know my thoughts on Star Tropics, and I think it's neat, but I'm not crazy about it. But I have played Star Tropics 2 a little bit, because many NES games I have at least slightly dabbled in, because I did a hell of a lot of emulating back in the day. So, and I always remember Star Tropics 2 felt a little better. So, yeah, I think that's a fine inclusion to another shot at this collection thing.
And it's one that not a lot of people, I don't even think a lot of people actually know about it, to be honest. Like, they played Star Tropics 1, had no idea there was a Star Tropics 2. Technically speaking, its actual name is Zoda's Revenge. Star Tropics 2, why the Star Tropics 2 is the, like, subtitle of it, I don't know, but yeah, there you go. Zoda's Revenge.
I think that's one of the reasons why. Like, I know it was a very late NES release.
It was the second last
even
one,
still, I think the titling doesn't help its cause.
Absolutely not. But yeah, it was the second last NES game released in North America.
What should I have such a vast list here, my goodness. I think something that was just an absolute shame that it wasn't on the original NES Mini, given the selection that we had. You had Castlevania and all that kind of stuff. But the original Metal Gear, I think, is very much a unique pick to have.
It is.
It kind of falls in line. It's almost like military Zelda.
Yeah. In a sense.
And it's
very
I like
janky,
the adventure games feel.
It's still solid. Like, it's still who published it? It wasn't actually Konami,
Solid
right?
Snake. So it was Konami's, like, because
so
back
was it
when
Ultra?
Nintendo had the weird publishing restrictions. Yeah. Yes, it was by Ultra.
Okay, so I actually had Metal Gear on my list too.
Oh, neat.
So
yeah, no, I think Metal Gear is one of those, like, it's a staple franchise that started on the NES. So it was so this is an issue that I tried to very much avoid with this list. With the original NES Mini, there was a lot of repeats, which I understand why they did that. But for example, like, I've got no Mario because they took all the Mario.
Right.
There's all 3 of them are on there. No Zelda.
Yep.
No, what else did they
You didn't
have
want multiples.
of?
Castlevania, because they had 1 and 2, although they do play very different.
Yeah, they do play quite differently, but all the same, yeah, no, I went for a very diverse cast. So Metal Gear, yeah, I think that's a fine pick.
Yeah, no, I'm like I said, I had it on my list too. Speaking of repetitive, I'm going to throw in Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse.
I think that's the best one of the 3.
That is a very common thing. Personally, I think I like number 1 the most. But number 3 is very, very good. It is a solid NES game anyways. And why not? It is actually also the most expensive.
I think
one
if you're
out of
going to
the
have
original 3. So if you were going to get
I think if you're representing like if you're representing the whole NES trilogy, I think the third one is the best foot to put forward. Wow. And I like that they have 1 and 2 on the original because they are very different games. But since they're there, yeah, let's go with 3.
Might as well,
it's
right?
Cool. It's got multiple pathways and characters. Like it I feel like it's just a more improved version of the first.
It very much is, and it's still in spirit like the first. They didn't continue with the Simon's Quest kind of look. No, I think it's different enough while keeping that the NES feel. So I think it's a solid candidate.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I guess if we're gonna go in the realm of just some sequels to what was on the NES Mini, we had Mega Man 2, and don't get me wrong, Mega Man 2 is fine and dandy and all. But since I want at least 1 on here, so which?
Can't use repeats, so can't do 2.
Can't use repeat. No, I can't use 2. I don't want to use 2. I want 6.
Oh,
let's put that one on it.
So it's funny because
6 is neat because
on my list I actually have Mega Man 3.
Oh,
yeah,
nifty.
I mean, 6 is very different.
I the reason why. That's kind of why I went with 6. Because it was either between 4 and 6, because I wanted something that was still Mega Man, but added new concepts and also got you a lot of bang for your buck. 4, 5, and 6, you get basically 2 Wily castles at the end of each game, so you just get that much more content. Right?
This is true.
As where with 3, you do get more content, but those dock robots fucking suck. But
you know what?
I wanted something that's obviously.
I'm going to change my list to Mega Man 4, and that's simply because that's when you start getting the charge buster.
So I like 4 the most.
Do you?
So I would agree to that. Yeah. Instead of 6, I would be willing to accept 4. So
okay.
But just as long as I get more Mega Man on there, then
so let's do a Mega Man 4.
Yeah.
For anyone wondering what the clicking is, it is my pen.
We should probably be writing these down. I forgot my pen.
I have everything written down so far. So except Mega Man.
Perfect.
6,
okay.
Mega Man 4.
So that works. What do we got now?
So I realized that my next choice is actually a bit of a cheat. So you say yes or no because it isn't my bonus one, but it was technically released before, and that's Mario 2: The Lost Levels.
Ooh. You know what? I think that works.
And I'm looking at it kind of like what they do for the NES Online service. So something kind of like that, where they're still allowing Japanese versions of games because it doesn't need much translation. And why The Lost Levels?
We just got 3 on the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah. I mean, does it really need explanation on why we need The Lost Levels? If for anyone who doesn't know, it is the actual Super Mario Brothers 2 that we never got. And the Super Mario Brothers 2 that we have was Doki Doki Panic over in Japan.
For those who didn't know,
yes.
I say that, but there might still be people who don't know. You never know.
Oh, absolutely.
But, it's funny because if I'm going to go back and play the original Mario Bros, I am more inclined to play Lost Levels. Just because I have done the original Super Mario Bros to death.
So many times. Absolutely.
Yeah, so Lost Levels, I think, it's just more Mario. It's hard as hell.
Oh, yeah.
But those games are still fun. And you can be Luigi. That makes it way better.
Yeah. What's your next one?
So, there was obviously a limited selection of RPGs for the NES available, and they put on Final Fantasy, which is a top-of-the-line pick.
Yes.
So, in that vein, I'm going to say, by what it would have been known at the time, Dragon Warrior 3.
Ooh.
And the reason I've chosen 3 is because, from what my understanding of the Dragon Quest series is, they really hit their stride with 3. It's basically their... what would be a good comparison? They're like the Final Fantasy 6 or 7 of that
Super
series.
Mario
It's
Brothers
very high
3?
regard for just... Yeah, you could even say that. And even beyond that, it is the first of the storyline of the first three because I think they did 1 and then 2 and then 3 is a prequel to 1. So I don't think there's any harm in having the third entry, and it feels like, I haven't played it. I'm hoping to play it with this HD 2D remake that comes out.
Yep.
Alongside the first 2 after, which is really cool. They're just following their release schedule, really. And it feels like it would be the entry that if you liked it, you would be able to dive into others for more,
Yes. So my fear of that would be if you played 3 first, would you ever to be able to go back to 1 or 2 of the originals? So if you played the original,
I don't know how different the gameplay is.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to answer that. But you would at least have the thing that could carry you along is the fact that the story continues with those earlier ones, right?
This is true. Okay, so I had Dragon Warrior 1 down on my list. I'm going to change that over to 3.
It was originally going to be Dragon Warrior 1 for me, but then I found out that we did actually get Dragon Warrior 3 on this side of the world.
Right. Yes. We didn't get...
So,
did we get 2? Or no?
I think we might have gotten 2 as well. I mean, if they were releasing it as Dragon Warrior 3 here, right?
Yeah.
So, because I know I have it on the Game Boy Color, and I believe it's called Dragon Quest 3.
At that point,
might still be Warrior. But all the same. Yeah, but I wasn't sure if we got the NES version or if that was our first, but now I learned today that Dragon Warrior 3 came out for us.
Yes, it did.
So it's on my list.
I actually have Dragon Warrior on my shelf. And I have a pre-order for a NES mod that's going to change the cartridge connector. So I'm patiently waiting for that to come in. And I'm going to make sure that's all set up, and I'm going to be booting it up here soon. And in prep to get the
I would have tried it by now.
It's going to be a rough go, but still.
If the ports that we got on Switch, if they weren't the mobile versions, I would have played Dragon Quest 1 by now.
Yeah.
But,
that's why I'll go with
I
the
can't,
original.
even if it's not on mobile. Yeah. What do you got?
So next game I got is Contra. Just plain old Contra.
See, it's funny. Yeah, I was actually thinking about that. It's not on my list, but it's funny that on the original we got Super C, which is the sequel to Contra, but not Contra, the game that everybody knows.
Yes, it's very strange, and I wonder if there's so much. It's Konami, right? So who knows what happened there? But Contra, yeah.
I actually think it's because I don't really like Contra very much. I don't know, maybe if I haven't given it the chance that I should. But I did like Super C a lot more when I played it.
And it's funny because I know a majority of people who are vice versa. They didn't like Super C, but they love Contra.
I know. I think that's the general census on it. And I'm going to guess it's because, from my perception, Super C was easier, which says a lot about me when I play those games.
That's fair enough. So Contra, you think would be a yes?
I think Contra's a good pick, yeah, because it's... it is a legendary NES title that somehow missed out on the first iteration.
No, absolutely.
It is Contra. Everybody knows Contra.
And it's the side-scrolling shooter. And, everyone knows Contra. I don't have to explain it. It's notorious.
Yeah. But you know what? This is something that nobody knows. Well, okay, that's not true. It is gaining notoriety these days. But... something that I would pick because I love it, and I think it's a very unique game, is River City Ransom.
Ah, yes. So, interesting fact.
I understand.
Interesting fit.
That one's on the Japanese run.
It is.
Yeah. And it makes sense because it's great. It's a multiplayer side-scrolling beat-em-up with RPG mechanics. It was way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And it also feels good to play.
It's one that I never got into, but obviously, I will say this, that character is, you see him everywhere. You recognize him.
Oh, yeah. Kunio is a very prominent, I don't know. They've been brought over here so many times, the many different games in this franchise, not as those things. There's a shit ton of sports games that they've done.
Yeah.
And they've been brought over here. And they always have, heavily Americanized box arts and, your standard, 80s kids playing beach volleyball.
Yep.
But they're actually just, these tiny little chibi characters in the video games. Like, you ain't fooling nobody if you know. And I played a good handful of the River City games. They're all fun. And for people who aren't familiar with it, but they have played the highly acclaimed indie darling. Hey, wait, no, this isn't indie. This is Ubisoft. What am I saying?
That's
Scott Pilgrim.
Yes. Maybe indie developed, I don't know, but definitely not.
It might be indie developed. No,
they had some big publishers.
Yeah, Scott Pilgrim it's just River City Ransom.
Yeah,
that's all it is. So that's my inclusion for this box.
My next one is one I'm honestly haven't beat, mainly because I lost my password, and having it on a mini console with save states would just be so much better than dealing with passwords. Fox Xanadu.
What a weird game.
It is. It's, you know what? The best comparison I can make, and it's something that we've talked about before on the show. For some reason, when I think Fox Xanadu, or I think of this other game, I always think of Fox Xanadu, is Astalon, and I don't know why.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Now that I've seen more of Fox Xanadu, I understand what you mean, because it's that weird. Now, Astalon was a lot more straight up Metroidvania, obviously, but it's that kind of classic RPG in an action platformer, but a very ancient feeling one.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely, because of its age. Also, like with a mix of Infernax, honestly.
Yeah,
not as gory.
I still have yet to try Infernax, but I like the idea. It's almost a more actiony but more Western fantasy take on like Castlevania 2.
Kind of, I suppose,
but a lot more like, what's a good way to put it? Like Might and Magic kind of stuff.
I'd almost say like Zelda 2. It's like
it does have a lot of Zelda.
It's like a linear Zelda 2. Not that Zelda 2 is like open world or anything, but it's Zelda 2 is a lot more cryptic than Fox Xanadu would be. Like, yeah, you go to your towns, you get your items and all that kind of stuff. But it's like a string of areas that you're heading to. You do a little bit of backtracking the odd time, but not nearly as much as you would in like Zelda 2. And you don't have the overworld. I don't think,
I think that's a neat pick. It's fairly infamous. How many games do we have so far?
So if we go with everything that we discussed, we got 1, 2, 3. So we got Star Tropics 2, Castlevania 3, Mario 2 Lost Levels, Contra, Fox Xanadu, Dragon Warrior 3, Metal Gear, Mega Man 4, and River City Ransom.
Okay, so we're at 10 so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's 9.
Is that 9?
Yeah.
Well, then I guess for number 10, maybe. So, funny enough, one of my complaints that I made, both about the NES Classic and the Super Nintendo, and I think the Sega Genesis Mini, and it's weird that it's a complaint coming from me, but just an odd lack of representation of sports.
Yep.
And, like, no sports games, right? So, now this is a super left field pick, and I don't think you know this game. It is definitely one of those games, though, that, like, you go to your buddy's house when you're a kid, and they've got, like, the basket of NES games, and you got your Mario Bros. 3s and all that stuff. Maybe a random weird thing like Family Feud. And then you got
Snoopy's Track and
Field 2.
Oh.
Snoopy's Track and Field.
There was a Snoopy game that was like Track and Field games or something.
Oh, weird. I didn't know that, but
yeah.
Funny enough, Track and Field 2. And so I remember I played this game actually quite a bit as a kid, and the reason why I pick it is because I think there's like 10 different events in this game.
Okay.
So just a multitude of different kind of gameplay styles, and it's a multiplayer game, so, you know, it's got some fun competitive aspect to it, and so, you know, you've got your standard stuff like, I don't know, 100-meter dash, and it would just kind of be like a button-mashing contest, or there'd be like long jump, pole vault, but I think there was also stuff like ski shooting and I very vividly remember that one of the specifically versus competitions you could do was arm wrestling.
Ha. All right.
But it's sports, but it's a lot of sports. So that way I can say, there, I got you lots of sports.
Oh. All right. So
plus, if I'm gonna play a game like that, I want multiple different play styles to keep me engaged, right? As someone who's not into sports, I can be into something that's basically a mini game collection with the sports coat of paint.
Yep, no, that's fair enough. It's like how you'd rather play like a basketball game if it's a Mario Party than an NBA Jam or something.
Exactly.
Yep. No, I can respect that. Or Wii Sports.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, you gave a sports game, I'm going to give a sports game. I'm going to go Blades of Steel. And it is obviously like
I was actually
it's certainly more focused on the hockey aspect, right? But at the same time, if I'm going to be playing a sports game, for me personally, it's going to be something like a hockey or something that I'm going to be sitting down with a friend, like back in the days, too close to the TV, because they're giant CRTs or tube TVs, and playing with my best friend and just fucking around.
Yep.
So I think Blades of Steel would be a good option for that.
It's funny because I actually initially thought that Blades of Steel was on the NES Mini, but no, I think the only sports game they got was, I think Tecmo Bowl.
Yes.
What I'm looking at here. And yeah, like even as not a sports person, like come on. It that was early gaming. Everyone had some kind of sports game.
Yeah. Whether it's Snoopy or not.
I think Blades of Steel. And I know Blades of Steel has like a reputation of being pretty good for an NES hockey game.
Yeah.
So
that and ice hockey.
Yeah, I think I will take ice hockey over ice climber. So fucking ice climber.
What else you got?
But something on my list that very much needs some representation.
And also, if anything that I've recommended is a no-go for you, let me know so I can put a star next to it.
Well, that's kind of like, so far these have all been, they seem to have good reason to be here, right?
That's what I've been figuring.
So I haven't found anything. Yeah, nothing's been outright egregious. Something that was entirely lacking from the previous one, and understandably so. There's really not much for the genre on it, and I'm opening the door, like, licensed games are a little tricky, but we're not worried about that here. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighter.
Okay.
Because what fighting games are there on the NES? This is before Street Fighter 2 and more. Yeah. Yep, there is Kung Fu. There's not a whole lot in the ways of like good fighting games. There's that really weird one that they put on the NES Mini. I don't know. It has a fully Japanese name. And you're like this weird robot just made of orbs. And it's an okay fighting game, but it's kind of weird.
What's the full name for that? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the one that actually, it came out on the NES, the Sega Genesis, and the Super Nintendo. And they all have different versions. And obviously, the NES one is the weakest of the three. But it's still, for only having 2 buttons and a D-pad, a very competent fighting game. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
So that's really the only reason. Like I mean, it's not to say that it's bad. I haven't played much of it, but it seemed, again, for the NES, pretty good. But yeah, just give it a 2-player fighting game. I think that's a fine idea.
No, that's a fair idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to go a little left field and put in something that. Another thing that's like sports I don't play a lot of. RC Pro-Am.
Ha! I also have that.
As just a bit of a racing game for those racing fans. And I was kind of torn up between this and Rad Racer. I think that's a fine choice. But I figure like RC Pro-Am is multiplayer, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a long time since I ever played this. Is it
not also... Is RC Pro-Am the one that Rare made?
It might be.
Yeah.
It's either Rare or I'm pretty sure Original Blizzard did one of these.
Didn't they do Rock and Roll Racing?
Oh, that might be in it. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. No, I think RC Pro-Am's a good pick. There was significant lack of racing game in the original. I think Excite Bike is really the only thing that kind of came close to a racing game on there.
Yeah.
So,
RC
and
Pro Am
multiplayer,
was by Rare.
So this one, I think some people probably fucking hate this game. I think I might even kind of hate this game, but I also feel like it's very core to the NES player experience, and that is Paperboy.
I don't give a shit. Paperboy is great. Although I will fully admit I never played it on the NES.
Yeah. I didn't say it was bad. I just said I might hate it. I've played a lot of Paperboy, and I'm not good at it.
So I've only played it on, I think it was the DOS version that I used to play it all the time. So PC.
It was one of those games that was on everything.
Yeah. I still find it really funny that, like, to lose a subscriber for your newspaper, you break their window, but to gain a subscriber, you break their window. It's just like, well, you don't want my paper?
I mean,
read it, fucker!
Hey,
no,
my window's broken. Hey, a free newspaper. Like,
right?
Just, yeah.
No, I'm down for Paperboy.
Also,
I spent so much time with Paperboy. That would be like a blast of nostalgia for me. I don't give a shit.
Well, I think it is one of those games that, yeah, people like Paperboy even if they don't like Paperboy, you know? That's me. I'm describing me. Yeah, it's one of those hilariously frustrating games. Yeah, because you're going like kind of slow, but fast enough that obstacles are still hard to dodge.
Well, and let's face it, like that era of isometric camera views was not the greatest.
It's impressive and also bad.
Impressive for its time.
They did what they could with what they had.
No, absolutely. Yeah. They did do a good job.
Cool. Yeah, Paperboy it is.
I'm going to select one just because again, it's something that's not on the system yet, genre-wise. It's not something I would generally go for, and I think I've only played it once. Life Force by Konami.
Isn't Life Force? Is that
the spin-off of
shoot 'em up?
Or Gradius?
Yes. Okay. I know what you mean now. I don't know a whole lot about it.
I know it has praise and it has its fans, and Gradius was on the original. So, being a spin-off, and I know people enjoy it, why not? It gives that genre a boost.
I think. See, I didn't actually put any on my list, but I was thinking for shoot 'em ups, I was going to say Twinbee, but I think Life Force is actually a really good pick because it's still that sci-fi space genre.
Yep,
and still pretty refined. I don't know how it is when it comes to like slowdown and stuff like that, but it's up there with the more revered shoot 'em ups for NES. So
I mean, it was a Konami,
because we don't have one yet.
Right? So
yeah,
if it had slowdown,
I think Life
Force
would
be under Ultra.
Fair. That's the dumb ones.
Yeah.
What else do I have here? Oh, this is one that I think. It's funny. I have a lot more of a multiplayer mindset with my curation this time.
In all fairness, like the NES, the Super Nintendo, and the N64 were all fantastic systems for multiplayer, and that might be just like that. That was because that was the '90s growing up. And if you are a '90s kid by any means, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now we have online stuff, and we kind of take it for granted, the multiplayer stuff. It's also not the same as like, hey, your buddy lives up the street, let's call him down and let's play some Super Smash Bros. Or like that couch co-op feel. We don't get that anymore. So it could be because when you think of the NES, being a 90s kid, such as myself, you're thinking of that like couch co-op mentality. I'm taking a guess here.
Pretty much. And that doesn't die. Well, it did kind of die, but enjoying it never dies.
No, the nostalgia of
my pick for that. Now, if you're gonna play this game, this is probably one of the worst versions, but it's probably still a lot of fun to be had. And that is Gauntlet. Like, it's fucking Gauntlet. Like, it's always a good time. It's just a top-down twin stick shooter, basically. Not for the NES, clearly.
Yeah.
But the same kind of gameplay, but it's just multiplayer, dungeon crawling, killing hordes of enemies, good time. Like, this is we have Diablo at home before Diablo was a thing.
Yeah. And I mean,
and it's got wicked multiplayer. Like,
yeah, no. And it's the arcade version, I would definitely say, is one of the better ways, or the remake that you can play online. Again, I think it's better to actually be beside the person that you're playing with old games like this. So I think the arcade would be one of the best, or the NES, because of the multiplayer.
It's funny, my fondness for Gauntlet comes from the N64 version.
Let's see, that's the one version I haven't played.
Well, I'll tell you what it's like. It's Gauntlet.
All
so
right.
you already know.
Fair enough.
It never changes. But yeah, I think either Gauntlet or Gauntlet 2. I don't know which one's better. I would imagine Gauntlet 2 might be. I just went with the original because like it's fucking Gauntlet.
Yeah. We'll just put down the original.
So. Yeah.
Okay, really simple one, because it's hilarious that it wasn't on the original. Tetris. Because we don't really have that many puzzle games.
I was okay, but which one? Are we doing Nintendo Tetris or the apparently superior Tengen Tetris? Who's how bad do we want to get sued?
Well, I don't think you can really do the Tengen or whatever, the Atari version. I don't think you can really do that because it was technically unlicensed. So I think the Nintendo version.
Yes.
I think the biggest. You know what? Can we say either or? I don't think the Nintendo published one had multiplayer, and it didn't have holding blocks. I think that was the big two differences, where the Tengen one did.
At least the multiplayer, anyway.
Yeah. Or I could be getting that confused with the Game Boy version.
But the NES one has a rockin' soundtrack.
This is true.
Yeah. No, I think Tetris is one of the... That's why it was so funny that it was on the Sega Genesis Mini.
Yeah.
Because they're like... Sega's like, look, we've got Tetris.
And columns.
And fuck. Oh, this is a bitter taste in my mouth. So I also have a puzzle gamey pick. And now this isn't where I played this game. I played this game mostly on the Super Nintendo. But I can't see it being drastically different other than visually on the NES. And that's Lemmings.
Was there a Lemmings on the NES?
There was a Lemmings on the NES, yes.
Holy shit.
There was Lemmings on damn near anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
It was the style at the time. I was hoping there was Worms for NES. I was going to say that, but it only goes as far back as the Super Nintendo.
Now,
such a
would Lemmings be good addition for the NES?
So, I like it because it's unique and it is puzzly. And
absolutely.
I can say that the game does control pretty well, at least with the Super Nintendo controller. As for an NES controller, hard to say.
Granted, like, my experience with the Lemmings was never on consoles. It was on the DOS version. So I can't really compare it. I feel like it would be a hard game to play without a mouse. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It is a hard game to play without a mouse.
Okay. So, would that be something that...
you have to be very precise with that D-pad.
This is the one I'm going to challenge you on a bit here. Because we are getting a little full now. Is Lemmings a worthwhile to put on here next to Mega Man 4, Dragon Warrior 3, Contra?
I think the better question is, as the puzzle game of the roster, is it better than Tetris? And the answer is no.
I will put a star on my list beside it as a maybe.
Yeah.
And then we can go back to this.
Yeah.
Because I think that would be very hard on an NES, in all honesty.
Yeah.
So I said that Tetris was gonna be my last genre one that I'm gonna try and weasel in, but there is a different genre within a genre. And what I mean about that is something for the kids to enjoy as well. Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, which is a solid platforming.
Back into licensed territory.
Yes. This is it's a very short game, very easy game, but it is a very good game.
It's a co-op platformer, which like you don't see.
No.
And it's almost like it's slightly a puzzle platformer. Like if someone pushes the block and then someone jumps up and tosses the thing down, or like that level of puzzle platform.
Yeah, it's.
I've never played it.
No, I played a little bit. It was always good. I've seen it played, and I've heard a lot of praise for it. It is a solid Capcom game. I'm pretty sure it was Capcom now. I'm saying that with confidence, and now I'm not too sure. I'm pretty sure it was Capcom.
I think that's a pretty good inclusion. The one thing that I tried to stray away with from my list, and it's hard to do because I love it, but I tried to stray away from platformers. But I think because Chip 'n Dale is specifically a co-op platformer, I do think that lends a certain amount of uniqueness to it.
Yep.
So for that alone, I would say it's a classic Capcom platformer. It's gonna be good. But yeah, I think because it's specifically a co-op platformer, I think that's a pretty good pick.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Something we don't have a whole lot of, which I intend to rectify with this, is just straight up arcade kind of games.
Yep.
And there was a couple classic Namco games on the original one. I think Pac-Man is on there, and
I mean technically a arcade game because that was the original intent. Punch Out.
Yep. Punch Out. Donkey Kong.
Yep.
Wait a minute.
What's Donkey Kong?
It doesn't have Donkey Kong. No, it has Donkey Kong Jr.
No, it has Donkey Kong.
Does it?
Yep. Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong.
Oh, it does.
Jr.
It was just very small under Simon's Quest. Okay. But I digress. My pick for a classic arcade kind of game, Dig Dug. I fucking love Dig Dug.
No, I'll get behind that.
I think as far as things like Pac-Man and the rest, your Centipedes, the quintessential classic arcade games, Dig Dug is probably one that comes to mind to me the most, and it's unique. You gotta dig a certain way. You explode things in a horrifying fashion by filling them up with air.
You know what? But
it's
I don't know why I always correlated with Dig Dug, Boulder Dash. I think that's what it was called, where you're this little mouse-looking character and you're digging things away, but you got to make sure that you don't get crushed and you got to get these diamonds and stuff.
Yeah, Boulder Dash is very similar kind of gameplay where it's
I don't know, just inflating enemies.
No, I think Boulder Dash, the only way you could kill things was crushing them with rocks.
Yeah.
And you can crush things with rocks in Dig Dug or fill them with your air pump.
Yes.
In a gruesome fashion. But yeah, I would like to see Dig Dug on there.
No, I'm down for Dig Dug.
Ah.
Next one I got, there's a few on here that I could choose from. I'm going to go with Little Samson. I'm going to stick with the platformers. And something that's kind of neat.
I left that off my list because I figured you would have it.
Little Samson is very, very unique. The animations in it for NES time is absolutely wonderful. Have you seen the animations on the characters in Little Samson?
Or
have you played it?
They're incredibly charming. I have not played it, but I know the cool thing about Little Samson is there's 4 different playable characters?
I think there's 4 characters. You got Little Samson himself. You got a dragon. I think it was a mouse. And
I think so. And then a golem.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, so it was kind of neat, and you could kind of choose who you wanted to play as for each level. It didn't matter.
On the fly.
Yeah.
I think you can just switch up at any point in time.
I think you had to in some cases.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, too, they have their own individual amounts of health.
Yes.
So,
yes, they do.
You could be almost dead as the mouse, and then you just switch over to the golem for a bit until you find more health, and then switch back to the mouse kind of thing. It did some cool stuff like that. So there's another game that's very similar to Little Samson, which, don't get me wrong, I think Little Samson is the pick. I just want to talk about this randomly.
Sure.
Is Bucky O'Hare.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Bucky O'Hare is kind of like a space-flavored Little Samson, where you've got 3 or 4 different playable characters on the fly for different traversal methods and stuff. But if anything, Little Samson needs to be on this imaginary NES Mini because it's too expensive.
It is so expensive. I think last time I saw it in a game store, it was sitting at about $2,400 just for the cart. That's stupid.
That's absurd.
That's absolutely stupid.
Emulate games, people. It's a fine way to enjoy them.
I will always be on the side of emulate something unless you have a way of paying the actual developer. I don't have a way to pay developer for Little Samson.
Yeah, don't pirate games. Yeah.
But yeah, little Samson.
No, I think Little Samson, it deserves to be in the hands of the people.
Yes.
So I got a real out of left field pick.
All right.
For this, just because they're not gonna put it on it, and we all know why. Gaming has changed since we were young. You know, it's why we don't have game centers in fucking Pokemon games anymore.
I'm scared.
Vegas Dream. I just want, just a gambling game. You play some poker or some blackjack. I don't know. So I don't know how they were on the NES. I've never played this, but I used to play a lot of, I think it's Vegas Stakes.
Oh, for Super Nintendo?
Super Nintendo?
Yep.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's fun to just play like a fake gambling game and just try to get enough money to get a credit screen. I think it's neat.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
It's either that or pinball, and I think this is way more fun than pinball.
You don't sound like a pinball fan.
I like some pinball, I guess. I don't know. We all played a lot of the Windows Space Cadet pinball.
Yes, we did. Absolutely. I don't know what to add to Vegas Dream. Yeah.
It's just gambling.
It's just gambling.
But yeah, I'm fine with that one having an asterisk beside it. What other games are going to be like it?
Yeah. Well, you said it yourself, pinball. Not even the same, but
kinda, yeah. Kinda. It's in the same vein of niche.
All right, I'm going to go a little off the rails on a game here. Sticking with the multiplayer games though. Snake Rattle and Roll.
Oh, Snake Rattle and Roll is so much fun,
right? I've only played it a handful of times, so I can't say too much. But I know it's more than one player, so it's a great multiplayer game. Why not? It's Centipede with a twist.
Snake with a twist.
Centipede. Are they two
funny,
different
I
things,
haven't
or am I
played
thinking of something completely different?
Centipede's kind of like Space Invaders.
Okay. Snake then.
But with centipedes. Yeah, and they poop mushrooms. It's weird. It's a very weird game.
But yeah, that goes into a puzzle game as well, but multiplayer as well. So we're giving lots of
So I've played
with the options that we've come up with so far. We've given lots of reasons to have 2 dog bones, not just one, which is nice.
Oh, very much so. I'm trying to think. I haven't played much of the NES Snake Rattle and Roll, but I've played a lot of the Game Boy Snake Rattle and Roll. But I think it has a different name.
We were talking about this not that long ago, actually. And I forget what episode, but yeah, I think it was the Switch Online, because didn't they put it on there?
No, I have it.
Oh, but yeah, I think it was called something else.
I don't know. I can't figure it out.
I remember us talking
immediately.
About, this is like an updated version of Snake Rattle and Roll. I don't know.
Yeah, and it was 2D instead of isometric.
Yes,
but I think that's a pretty unique pick. I can't think of anything else like it, so I have no reason to contest it.
Perfect.
Now I have another dumb pick, because I like dumb games. And I was thinking, everyone had a game like this in their collection. And as stupid as they are fun to play with other people. And of all of the like it kind of games, I finally settled on Wheel of Fortune.
Okay.
Yeah. It was either that or a Jeopardy or something, but Wheel of Fortune, I think, it's something that most people can get on board with.
Regardless of the age of it,
think
right?
Of phrases, right?
If you pick Jeopardy, it's really going to be you're going to be turning into a history major to know some of the current events of the time.
That's just it.
Same with Family Feud.
Yeah, what happened in politics and pop culture in the 81s?
Yeah.
Family Feud was another one that was there, but it is also very much determinant of its time.
Yep.
Now, the one that I would have picked, but it was never actually released, unfortunately, which sucks because I would have loved it, is The Price is Right.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember who was developing it, but yeah, I was looking at the unreleased games, and there was a Price is Right game in development for the NES. And that would have been so cool. Everything would have been so cheap. I'd hate it. Yeah, it's like just like a new car. It'd be like, I don't know, like $49,000. They'd be like 17. Like, what the fuck?
What the fuck is this? The price is wrong.
I'm never gonna know what the prices of things were. But yeah, I think Wheel of Fortune is a good, stupid multiplayer game that most people can get on board.
I'm down for that just because of its game show representation, which none of these have. So I think that's a good choice.
And I was thinking about things like that or like board games, and I was kind of contemplating Monopoly, but those games in video games form are always worse.
So, interesting fact.
I've yet to play a video game version. Did you put Monopoly on your list?
No, but you know who worked on Monopoly? Actually, you know what? I'm going to make an ass of myself if I don't look this up. The person who did Monopoly on the NES. No, that's Game Boy. I don't want Game Boy. I want NES. No, that's playing it. Yeah. It was Sugisato Atoy, maker of the Mother series.
Weird.
Yep. Yeah, Monopoly.
How many do we have now?
We have 1, 2, 3. We have 22, possibly 24 if we put in Lemmings and Vegas Dreams.
All right.
So, and that is sticking with Wheel of Fortune.
3 to 5-ish picks. Yeah, 3 to 5-ish picks left, I think.
Yep.
And then we will have built our console.
I'm going to go with Crystallis as something that can kind of rival a Zelda type game.
I think that's a pretty good pick. It's a very, very popular niche game.
It's popular. It's a bit niche. It's not the best, but it's not the worst by any means. And it's a solid, like, you could spend some time with it.
I think it is one of the few bits of representation that you will get in the action RPG genre.
Yes.
Like, I was looking for anything that might kind of resemble Mana, but that didn't happen until it happened on the Game Boy.
Yeah.
So,
well, unless you go with Final Fantasy.
I think Crystallis is oof.
Yeah.
Kinda. But yeah, I think Crystallis is a pretty good pick for that, that kind of, the Zelda 2 without getting Zelda.
More Zelda 1, to be honest.
1-ish. Yeah.
Because it's top-down attack. And
this,
a little more janky than
very
Zelda
big.
1.
It's weird how it feels like... It feels like a Sega game on the NES.
I can see that.
It's like... Yeah, like the NES has Zelda and Sega has Crystallis, except the NES actually has Crystallis. I think that's a good pick. It fills a void.
Yep.
One that I think... So I have some slight representation on here for the beat-em-up genre, which would be River City Ransom, and one-of-a-kind game. But now, to take away the RPG element and just give a straight multiplayer beat-em-up, I'm going to go with Mighty Final Fight, which is a really, really peculiar game, because it came out like after Final Fight on the Super Nintendo did. So it's got that later NES style polish, but it's not like a downgrade. It's very much its own thing. And I think it even includes stuff like, I don't know, there was like a power attack meter and stuff, but it's still like just a straight multiplayer, just side-scrolling beat-em-up game. And it was either that or Battletoads. And though Battletoads would be a good inclusion, we've talked about it enough on this podcast.
Have we? Because I got Battletoads Double Dragon on my list.
I don't know. I'm just thinking back to the year of Battletoads. but yeah, so between Mighty Final Fight and Battletoads, or Battletoads and Double Dragon, I don't know. We've got three pretty. What do you think's the best bang for your buck on this thing?
I have no idea about Mighty Final Fight, and I don't know much about the original Battletoads. I have played Battletoads Double Dragon, so I don't know if I really get a pick in this, because I'm assuming that you've played a few of these.
I think we can go with Battletoads and Double Dragon.
Yeah?
I have played Oddly enough, all of them but Mighty Final Fight.
Ha!
Odd how that's my pick. I'm aware.
I mean,
I
Battletoads...
love...
Battletoads has a reputation for a reason.
Yeah. I played a lot of Final Fight 2 on the Super Nintendo.
Right.
Game. But I would be accepting of Battletoads and Double Dragon, because it is iconic, but it's the obscure side of the iconic, you know?
Yes. Absolutely.
So I think that's a sufficient pick, yeah.
Next one I got, and this is one I haven't actually played, but it's a spin-off of a series that was on the original. Gargoyle Quest 2. The first one is on Game Boy, the second one is on NES, and this is kind of like a spin-off series of Ghosts and Goblins.
I am all for this as a pick. I haven't played it, but I have played Demon's Crest and spoke very highly of Demon's Crest.
So Gargoyle Quest is very strange because it's like 2D, but it has top-down sections. Plus, it's a platformer. It's very strange.
Yep. I played the one for Game Boy, and it's really good, actually.
Okay, so is it
like
the same kind of idea?
Metroidvania-ish, but kind of. Yeah, it's, I wouldn't say it's fully explorable, but everything feels a lot more open than your standard platformer.
Okay.
And I don't know, the whole being able to hover and climb up walls never gets old in these games. And I mean, it's classic Capcom. They could do no wrong. They're almost back to that point now. Almost. The only thing that makes this a weird inclusion, which doesn't bother me per se, but I think it's one of those ones that's like, people be like, why am I getting number 2? But when you know that the first one's on the Game Boy, then it makes a bit more sense.
Mind you, at the same time, look at Dragon Warrior. We picked Dragon Warrior 3. We picked Mega Man 4.
Yep.
Track and Field 2.
That's why I'm like, I don't
what
think
happened to Track and Field 1?
Everyone died, so they had to do it again.
Star Tropics 2, Castlevania 3.
That's the lore. Yep. Yeah, okay. That's a good point. No,
back in the day, you didn't give a shit. You played, and if you had fun, you had fun. Now, granted, we were talking about like
the lore.
What else you got?
I think one that I think is interesting. It's kind of a sports game. It's kind of a racing game. It's kind of neither of them, and it also has its own unique ideas to it. Skate or Die, the original Tony Hawk 2.
You know what? It did have some love.
I think it's cool because like there were some race levels, and I think if I'm not mistaken, there was like half pipe levels where it was just like try to grind up by doing tricks and stuff like that, and it was also brutally hard.
I mean, yeah. This is one of those. Who made Skate or Die? Was it Ultra or was it LJN?
I think it was Konami. So yeah, Ultra.
Okay. Yeah, this is one of those games that it's like notoriously hard. Like you'd see on an early episode of AVGN. And
yep.
But at the same time,
yep,
it's one of those games that I know a lot of people have admiration for, regardless if it's just nostalgia or not.
It's a good game.
Yeah. So
it's not one of those games that's like hard because it's broken.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have more experience with the Game Boy version of this, as I do with a lot of these NES games.
Sure.
I feel like the Game Boy one is probably nothing like the NES one, because the Game Boy one has boss fights, which is really strange. If the NES one has boss fights, though, it's an even better pick. So
yeah, fair enough.
Skate or Die. Dude, bringing back that late 80s, 90s edge.
No, I'm down for that. Cool. My next one, I'm actually only have 2 more on my list that we haven't talked about. It's going to be DuckTales.
Oh, that means I can scratch off DuckTales from my list.
DuckTales, I mean, it was good enough to get a remake. So many years later. Its music is solid. The Pogo Jump. I mean, come on. The Pogo Jump was just so much fun.
I think the Pogo Jump is the thing that makes this stand out as its own thing versus a bunch of other, like, there's a lot of quality just 2D platformers for the NES.
Yep.
But that pogo jump makes it something special. And then you've got, obviously, the wonderful music and the iconic characters, which are this kind of like the icing on the cake, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Now, my contestant with this as a pick of like another Capcom license would be Nemo's Adventure in Slumberland.
Okay.
Little Nemo
Adventure
in Slumberland.
I think they would be two different spectrums of game. One is a little more
I do as well.
Family friendly. But I do agree with putting Little Nemo in Dreamland on the list.
See, I wish I had played it because I've heard nothing but really good things, and I love the movie. It is nightmare fuel, my god. But as for the video game itself, it's kind of, I think the whole gimmick is it's a standard platformer, but with enemies I think you can put them to sleep, and then you like crawl inside them and wear them like pajamas, and like you climb into a frog, and now you've got like the Super Mario Bros. 3 like frog jump, and then you can do water, like stuff like that. And like this didn't happen in the movie.
No.
But it is also between like DuckTales and Little Nemo, it's safe to say DuckTales is the much more recognizable pick. And I also think it would be a game that's easier for people to get into.
I'm going to say we put both of them.
I agree with DuckTales.
I say we put both of them on. If there's one thing that I'll say is, like, yes, we have a good variety of different genres on here. At the same time, like when you think the NES, you do think about a lot of platformers. Platformers were I'm not going to say in their prime, but they were damn solid. So I think it is kind of important to have an abundance of platformers on this.
I, as someone who loves them, will not disagree. I'm going to go with a pretty obvious pick that neither of us have chose, nor did Nintendo, for the NES Mini. But they did in Japan. And I say NES Open Tournament.
Ah, yes.
Why was it not there originally? We got Tecmo Football instead, which I was sure, but it's NES Open Tournament. It's so good.
You know what? I'm down for that.
Except fuck Larry. He's a bitch. Stupid Larry always getting his par on the third fucking hole. No, NES Open Tournament's great. It is basically Mario Golf before we got Mario Golf,
yes.
Right? Like we had NES Golf, which was obviously a black box title, and still fundamentally the same game, but NES Open Tournament was the first to kind of give it that Mario charm and make things a little bit more straightforward, a little bit more arcadey.
And
but
this is one
it's still golf.
I never owned, but grew up with. And it's just great. I love it. I have it on my shelf. It is one that I actually went out and said, oh, not because it's a part of a group of things or anything, but it's because I have nostalgia for this. And it's also on the Switch Online, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I've gone into why I love this.
You are correct.
Before on a previous episode, so I won't go too far into it on this. But NES Open Tournament, absolutely. Absolutely.
Straying away from the obscure for just some straight up good golf, but not NES golf. I want the better one.
So, without putting in Lemmings, Vegas Dream, or Mighty Final Fight, because I think we picked with what did we replace that with? Battletoads.
Double Dragon.
That puts us at 29.
Ooh, okay. So look over your list. Did you go through everything?
There is one that I have not, and I don't even know how I feel about it, to be honest. It's
I got a couple here.
Rad Racer. It's not that exciting. So I feel like we could put
it's not
a
that
little
exciting.
bit.
It
is historical, sure.
It's also different from RC Pro-Am. Like, it's a very different style of racing game. I personally like the behind the rider POV style of racing. Like, if Road Rash was on the NES, I would say Road Rash.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's not. But I think it does serve a purpose. I'm trying to think if I had anything on my list here that nothing feels more quintessential, but there are things I have that I just enjoy more.
Yes.
So
I'll mark it
okay.
down. That gives us 30, but let's hear what else you got.
All right, I have 2 more picks, and they're both very different from each other.
Okay.
One's a little bit more on the arcadey side. It's a very iconic franchise, and I feel like these are games that they're either love it or hate it. But Rampage, I think, when I think like classic arcade, I think Rampage is a good time. You just a big monster breaking buildings, and it is also co-op. But I also know Rampage gets old pretty quick.
Right.
So that's kind of where my apprehension, like, as much as I love it, I think I mostly love it on a conceptual level. Like, Godzilla, King Kong, a big monster destroyed the city.
Yeah.
It's a good time. But as for something that I think is just genuinely more fun, this is a game I actually played a lot when I was a kid. It's called Jackal. And it is a top-down twin-stick S shooter. Very different from Gauntlet. Gauntlet's doing its own thing. You're like destroying enemy bases, stopping waves.
Is this
right?
from Konami?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and it's got a very strong like military flavor to it.
Yeah.
I believe your little like tank trucks. Like, you're not quite a tank, you're a little bit faster, or maybe you might just be like military trucks. I'm not sure. But it's kind of like a top-down twin-stick shooter, kind of like a shoot 'em up, and vertically scrolling, and it's a lot of fun. It's got really cool boss fights.
I don't know why I'm just keep thinking like vertical top-down Contra instead of side-scrolling.
Honestly, it kind of is.
All right.
I would say it's a bit more forgiving than something like Contra.
Yeah.
I think you can take a couple hits, but all the same, like, yeah, it's very much that kind of feel to it, and yeah, I think Jackal's sick. So put that on there.
Okay. I'm down for Jackal. So,
all right.
Rampage, I'm going to say no. Just because I don't know
we can
much
pass
about
on
it.
Rampage.
And you said that it could probably get boring. So, that puts us at 31. So, I'll start going through the list that I got here. Because it has both ours in no particular order as well. Star Tropics 2. Yay or nay?
I'll say yay.
Okay. Castlevania 3.
Yes.
Mario 2 Lost Levels.
Yeah.
Contra.
Yeah. Yeah, Contra can stay.
Fox Xanadu.
I think Fox Xanadu can stay due to its uniqueness, yeah.
Crystalis.
Crystalis also covers a niche, yeah.
Dragon Warrior 3.
Yes, that is the quintessential RPG of the package.
Yes. RC Pro-Am.
RC Pro-Am can stay. It's very much doing its own thing.
Blades of Steel.
So I think if anything's going to be on the chopping block, it'll probably be a sports game. Because how many did we have in total? It was like 4 or 5. So I'm going to say Blades of Steel can.
We'll put a little asterisk beside it.
Little asterisk there.
Okay.
But I'm not going to say no to it just yet.
Metal Gear.
Metal Gear can stay.
Mega Man 4. Snake Rattle and Roll.
I'm not allowing that to leave.
Snake Rattle
and Roll. Yeah, that can stay.
Okay. Life Force.
I think Life Force gets to stay due to the way it's horizontal shoot 'em up nature. It's kind of the only one we have on there.
Okay. Tetris. This is a countdown now.
Tetris can stay.
Rad Racer.
I'm gonna put an asterisk beside Rad Racer.
Okay. Gargoyles Quest 2.
Because it's almost the Rampage.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah. Which was the last one?
Gargoyles Quest 2.
Gargoyles Quest 2 can stay.
Okay. Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
Yep. Co-op platformer. You can stick around.
Battletoads Double Dragon.
We can keep that. Yep.
Little Samson.
Yes. Too expensive to get rid of.
DuckTales.
DuckTales can stay.
River City Ransom.
Yep, that one's a necessity.
Track and Field 2.
We'll give that the sports asterisk, but I'm gonna be biased towards it due to the fact that it has the variety.
Fair. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighter. Just
gonna say yes because it's the only fighting game we have. It gets the Life Force effect.
Fair enough. Paperboy.
We can't get rid of Paperboy now, not after how heated that got.
Gauntlet?
Gauntlet can stay.
Okay.
I like Gauntlet.
Dig Dug?
Dig Dug can stay. We didn't have too many of those kind of arcadey games, so
Nope.
I'll go with that.
Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune, we could put an asterisk on there. I like it. It's probably going to be between that and Vegas Dreams, actually.
So that 31 was not counting Vegas Dreams or Lemmings.
Oh, okay.
So
in that case, that just saved Wheel of Fortune. You can stay.
Skate or Die.
Skate or Die. I think that almost had the Paperboy effect. We can take that one too.
Little Nemo. I think that's a stay.
Is it? I think that can be a stay. Yeah.
NES Open Tournament. I think that should be a stay.
Yes.
Honestly. Jackal.
That should be the first game in the package. Jackal is. It can stay for now because it's tough because it's like for me it's between Jackal and Life Force, but they're also very different, so it's kind of hard to differentiate which one I'd more. I'm more biased to Jackal. Actually, is Life Force 2-player?
I don't know.
Ooh, that might be the deciding factor there.
So one thing I will say is if I was going to get rid of one off this list to make an even 30, I would say get rid of Rad Racer.
I'm okay with getting rid of Rad Racer. Getting rid of Rid Racer.
Getting rid of Rid Racer?
Yeah.
All right, so.
Get rid of Rid Racer.
All right, so I know I just named everything off, but I'm going to name it off again in no particular order. Because now we have. We have 30. So we got Star Tropics 2, Castlevania 3, Mario 2 The Lost Levels, Contra, Fox Xanadu, Crystalis, Dragon Warrior 3, RC Pro-Am, Blades of Steel, Metal Gear, Mega Man 4, Snake Rattle and Roll, Life Force, Tetris, Gargoyles Quest 2, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, Battletoads Double Dragon, Little Samson, DuckTales, River City Ransom, Track and Field 2, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighter, Paperboy, Gauntlet, Dig Dug, Wheel of Fortune, Skate or Die, Little Nemo, NES Open Tournament, and Jackal. That is a damn solid lineup.
Take notes, people. This will be on the test. Yeah, I'd buy it. I would 100% buy
absolutely.
That. And I think it is, that's a dense grouping of games. And I want to say, even though we do have some similarity, obviously, like we mentioned, there's a lot of platformers. They have Super Mario Bros. 1, 2, and 3 on this damn thing. I think we can get away with a couple games that are kind of similar.
Castlevania 1 and 2.
Yeah.
They play the same, just in a different enough environment.
Yeah. No, I think that is a solid list. And now, what is our game that is going to be like the now act fast, limited quantities in store, exclusive re-release bonus pack-in title? They didn't do this with the original, but they did it with the Super Nintendo and the Sega.
Yes, it's kind of like the secret unlock bonus of the console, right? Like something that so NES Mini did the Star Tropics, or not Star Tropics, Star Fox 2, which was never released.
Star Fox 2, yes. Nope.
Anyone who's listened to the show and listened to me ramble and go on my tangents before, you obviously know what my pick is going to be, and it's going to be Mother 1, or Earthbound Beginnings, as the West has come to know it. So, pretty easy pick. And I mean, save states would be a blessing in that game as well.
Yep. Now, I'm on two sides of the fence with that pick. I think that pick makes more sense because it is a Nintendo Vault title per se,
and it was already developed before.
Fit in the theming.
So it's not like they had to do any extra work. They just had to release it, which they didn't because Earthbound was Super Nintendo was around the corner. Didn't think that it would sell that well over here, so they never did.
Yep. The thing that I think clashes with it a little is Earthbound gameplay is fairly similar to Dragon Warrior gameplay, but they are more than different enough from each other to warrant being beside each other.
Yes.
So
I think that would be like comparing, and this is going to be a weird way to say it, but Final Fantasy 1 to Final Fantasy 6.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to say it. Now my pick is not nearly as iconic and well known, and this would be a game that we never got translated for us. And it does fall into the RPG vein a fair bit, but also kind of a classic adventure game. And that would be if we could have a proper re-release of Sweet Home. And for those who are not aware, Sweet Home is essentially the thing that would go on to inspire the Resident Evil series. So, we would have actually probably the only one in this lineup, and completely absent from the previous lineup, a sort of horror-based game.
Yes. And you know what? I
think that
I am all down for Sweet Home as well.
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting inclusion. And the only thing, like, unless you're thinking of, like, hokey movie tie-in movies like Friday the 13th,
Maniac
Fester's
Mission
Quest, which, don't get me wrong, they would have all been fun to put on this list, but
so all honestly,
I don't know, Sweet Home kind of feels.
I was thinking about putting Fester Quest on my list, but now, so there's a big technical problem with Fester's Quest. Whether people want to actually acknowledge it or not, It is a actual technical problem, and it has to do with the speeds of the system. So if you were playing Fester Quest in the PAL region, it is actually timed properly versus the 60 hertz North America version. So, yes, because there's a timer that goes off. Okay, we're going to get a little technical. Each time that you shoot a weapon, it starts up a multiplier in the background. And the more often that you keep shooting, that multiplier continues as long as it's hitting an enemy. Well, that timer ticks down almost as fast as you could actually tap the button in the North America version, where you're actually given like a second in between in the PAL regions. So to actually get those multipliers and keep them, it's very hard to do in the North America version versus the PAL version.
It happened a lot. Just us getting bugged versions of games. And they're like, well,
yeah,
it's out there now.
So I was tempted if we could have the PAL version or fixed.
For as easy as it is to trash talk Fester's Quest, because I think it was LJN that published Fester's Quest. It is actually a Sunsoft game. It's basically Blaster Master. So it's just got an Addams Family coat of paint. So it's not actually a bad game, but it is.
It doesn't have LJN on it. I have.
Oh no!
I have the game in my hand right now. I had to pull it off my shelf. Yeah, no LJN.
I used to have it. So
it's just
I can't remember, but so I don't know. What do you think between Sweet Home and Mother 1? What fits here better?
Oh God, I think what fits better is going to be Mother 1, but I would like to see Sweet Home.
Fuck it, they're both on there.
All right, I'm down for that.
32 games,
two bonus games, 2 for the price of 30.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? Two bonus games is fitting. It's the second iteration.
It is. It is the top.
We got a bunch of 2s on there. Yeah. It'll sell.
No, I'm down for that.
It'll sell like crazy.
It would sell
People
like crazy.
People scalp this shit for years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm gonna issue a challenge. I don't care when this happens, but if we ever have a viewer who fulfills this challenge, you win. If anyone takes their NES Mini, or if they even go the extra mile and like 3D print and Raspberry Pi one, and they put on our list, I'll send you a button or a hat or something. I don't fucking know. But all the same. Or if you don't want to go to that extent, just leave us a comment or a review.
Yeah.
Or something like that on our Twitter, X, somewhere.
Yeah. So if you're listening on Spotify, you can leave comments now. It is a new feature that they are doing. So let's say that. But yeah, you can always leave us a review. You can catch us on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Instagram. We've said it plenty of times. We got to be better at social media stuff. We're working on it.
We're there and we're listening.
Yes, we are always watching. We are the definition of lurkers.
So, what do you think? Should we ship it, sell it, make millions of dollars? Call this episode a close.
I want it. I want this.
I do too.
This would be great.
I'm actually thinking, you know what? Even though I kept my SNES Mini pristine, I might just say fuck it and just mod it eventually. I don't know.
You can always revert it back. So
but am I gonna have time to play these games? That's the problem.
No, I'm not, especially
wish
Baldur's
I
Gate
did,
3.
If
All right,
if I did, I would play them all. But
let's close this up. Everyone, thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, especially thank you to listening. And hope this wasn't a rambly episode. We had fun doing this. It was kind of like a make-believe type of thing, but yeah, who knew that we'd be sealing off a product with Wheel of Fortune?
I like it. We'll be back again with this for other consoles that everybody loves.
Oh, we're gonna have
give
to
them weird Cronenberg Frankenstein-esque abominations with weird Mad Catz controllers.
And it's gonna be even better when we can do the N64 version because Nintendo never did. No limitations.
Yes! Yeah,
guys.
Something tells me Silicon Valley's gonna be on that one.
Oh fuck yeah! You know it.
Yeah, but anyway.
Thank you everyone for listening, and we will catch you next time. Take care.
Bye!